They know that I'm him, all of this time in the gym. Shots don't never touch the rim. They know that I'm him, got the defense overwhelmed. Do they know highlights of them? They know that I'm him. Don't believe me, check the film. Ayy, any court in any field. Ayy, yeah, I'm Hall of Fame for real. They know that I'm him, all of this time in the gym. Shots don't never touch the rim. They know that I'm him, got the defense overwhelmed. Do they know highlights of them? They know that I'm him. Don't believe me, check the film. Ayy, any court in any field. Ayy, yeah, I'm Hall of Fame for real. They know that I'm him. It's Timothy. Opponents might call me Himothy, aka Mr. Go switch up your energy. I join the team and increase all the chemistry. Wait, the odds playing baseball, I make them head home. I get the football, I'm in the red zone. I'm really him and I'm making it clear, bro. Thinking I'm not RIP cause you dead wrong. Wait, I got some options. I feel like a dude 3 QB out of college. The way I be jumping in and out these pockets and they just be spying, watching, trying to stop it. Hold up, I'm in the fourth quarter, you on the bench. Don't take no L's, I just do all the wins.
And welcome back to the I'm Him Sports Show, podcast, whatever you want to call it. My name is Matthew King, and alongside me once again is Jake Morris. And we want to thank Tim Saunders. So the song and the intro was made by Tim Saunders. You can look him up on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever that you get your music. He does a lot of rap battles, and he does really well on social media. So check him out. Really cool. New Year's just came around. Really cool celebration. I went to Ocean City this past weekend. A lot of fun. How was it? I think you went to Annapolis, right?
I did.
How was that downtown?
Honestly, it was the one bar we went to. It was just really packed, and like it was one of those things where like there was just a ton of people in there, and I guess like a lot of people like that, but I didn't really like. Everyone's just standing around socializing. Like I want to dance a little bit. Like I want to be able to get a drink and not have to wait 30 minutes. But It wasn't too bad. We went to another place where it was older people, and it was more fun than that one. So
yeah, older people get down.
They do. They do.
Sure.
There was literally like an 80-year-old grandma that was busting it down. Like, she was getting after it.
I swear young people just at this age, they're more scared about what people think about them rather than actually going out and just having fun. Especially on New Year's. I feel like you get drunk enough during New Year's where you just don't care.
I think especially when you're single, like you're trying to find that New Year's kiss or whatever, so like you don't want to embarrass yourself or whatever. But,
right.
Yeah.
But who cares at that point?
Honestly.
Last New Year's, I didn't do it as bad this year as I did last year. The Ravens did win on New Year's. I thought I would celebrate a little bit more, but I'm a little bit nervous about the playoffs, so that ran through me a little bit. But I want to talk about New Year's resolution. So I wanted a New Year's resolution maybe for yourself and then also for your team as well, for the Washington Commanders.
So I say my personal resolution is to kind of just get back on track with the gym. Like during the holidays, like I kind of fell off and like not being as consistent with my diet, with my training, with everything like that. So I guess that's probably my number one resolution. And then for my team, I am at the point right now where my only resolution is we don't go after a veteran quarterback that's on the decline like a Russell Wilson, because we've done it multiple times now and it just has not worked out. So I'm hoping I've come to peace with us actually drafting a quarterback with that, well, now number 2 overall pick.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Or Joe Alt out of Notre Dame, the offensive tackle, and then just basically become a middle of the pack team in our first year of the new rebuild. This is technically the 5th year with Ron Rivera, but just instill some hope back into our fans. So
yeah, do you think Ron Rivera gets fired on that Monday?
I think so. I think he's the first one off the board.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he wasn't fired mid-season. So
honestly, yeah. So for me, my New Year's resolution would be to get up earlier. I've been really lazy about getting up early and starting work early. So I really want to get that. But also for my team, so for the Baltimore Ravens, my New Year's resolution is easy: go win the Super Bowl. Not only that, but at least go win a playoff game. So my girlfriend, her parents have season tickets to the Baltimore Ravens. And if you didn't know, I used to work for the Baltimore Ravens the past couple of years. Of course, the first year that I quit, they're the best team that they've been in 4 years, which sucks. So I was there during hard times when Lamar Jackson was hurt multiple times. But it's really nice to watch as a fan. But I think this year with her parents having season tickets, we're going to go to both playoff games, so the divisional round and the championship round. So I really want to see a AFC championship in Baltimore. I think it would really I think Baltimore would show that they can put on a show for not only an AFC Championship game, but maybe in the future a Super Bowl. I don't know if the NFL would ever go back to a colder atmosphere. Do you remember when they did New York with Peyton Manning and the Seattle Seahawks, or Denver Broncos and Seattle Seahawks, and everybody hated it because of how cold it is? So I wonder if they would ever do it here.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're gonna stick with the newer stadiums and the warmer environments for now, but eventually, like, you can only build so many stadiums in so many years. Like, so
Right.
I think
And the Ravens are doing a bunch of different
that's true.
new
They're
things
doing,
to the
they're doing
stadium.
a ton of renovations in the next coming years. So maybe once those are finished, who
I
knows?
don't know if anybody wants to come to Baltimore though.
That's true.
That's not
That's
a
true.
destination spot.
Yeah, it's not. But I mean, Baltimore Ravens do a primetime game almost as best as anyone else does in the league. So
Yeah, it would be really crazy. So before we get into the NFL recap for this week, we want to talk about the college football playoff because this was probably the greatest college football playoff since it's began. I mean, the committee got it correct. We talked about it a couple weeks ago saying how right they were, and seeing Florida State get blown out 63-3 absolutely proved that this was the correct 4 teams. What did you think about the games? Did you were you surprised that Michigan beat Alabama, or how Washington absolutely dominated Texas? I mean, that was a little bit surprising to me too.
yeah, well, that's so the first thing I want to say is I think the committee got it right, at least on the making them the most entertaining games. Those, like, I feel like there was always at least one where there was a blowout or something, and then the other one was a close game. Like, these were like, Texas made it. The thing about the Texas Washington game is Washington did dominate that game, but Texas made it exciting at the end. Like,
Right.
they had a chance to go down and win that game. So that was I mean, couldn't ask for more there. I was literally about to fall asleep, and Texas scored another touchdown. I was like, wait a second, I got to stay up and watch the rest of this.
Yeah.
They fell short, but they got it right in that aspect. I still think Georgia probably deserved a spot there.
Potentially,
But the thing
yeah.
is I don't. Honestly, I feel like Georgia might beat Michigan. I think it'd be a hell of a game, but I think the Alabama Michigan they just matched up better. So entertainment wise, it was a better game. Wasn't surprised that Michigan won. I feel like Michigan this is kind of their year. But at the same time, like, watching, I don't know if Washington's defense can handle Michigan's offense, but man, they've got a high-powered offense, and they are exciting to watch. Michael Penix his draft value, I feel like, just skyrocketed. If he plays well against Michigan, like, I think he's gonna jump up some people's mock drafts. But
he's
very
jumped up
pleased,
mine
for sure.
I think he's quarterback 1
for some of those throws he made, like that tightrope he threw for the touchdown between 2 defenders.
That was. And did you see? I think his completion percentage on outside the numbers is like over 60% this year. Yeah. And he's the best deep ball passer in NCAA, I think, which is crazy.
He can make any throw that you need him to.
I don't feel like he missed anything.
No.
Like, I can't remember a throw where I was like, he really missed that throw. Like, I tweeted that out. I was like, he can make every single NFL throw that any other quarterback in NCAA can make. I mean, it looked like I was watching an NFL quarterback, like, dice up kids. Like, that's what I felt like the entire time. And also in that game, I feel like that Washington has I know that Michigan has a really good defense, but Texas had a really good defense coming in too. And that was their statement, saying, like, we have a really good defense, we can compete. I mean, they beat Alabama earlier in the year because of their defense. So I feel like Washington being able to dismantle them like they did offensively is going to really show in the championship round. If they force a shootout, Michigan's screwed. Yeah. Michigan might get blown out by 3 scores because Michigan's offense, I know that Alabama's defense is good, but J.J. McCarthy, I don't get it. I don't see it in him. He made that one really nice throw on the trick play, but that's the only impressive thing that I saw from him.
Yeah, J.J. McCarthy, he didn't turn it on until late when they needed it, and maybe they just, if they get into a blowout, he's got to be like, okay, I gotta lock in now. But, like, he didn't have it until, like, that the last, I guess, quarter of that game. So if they get in a shootout and Washington's able, because all they talked about in that Texas game was how good the Texas defensive line was. I don't think Michael Penix, he might have got sacked late in the game, but, like, they were talking about how he'd not gotten touched at all, like, for at least to the first 3 quarters of the game. So if that Washington offensive line could hold up against Michigan's front 7, then I don't know, Michigan might be in trouble, because that high power with Rome Odunze and everything, like Michael Penix and him just could not miss.
I know.
He was hitting him on everything. I think they've definitely got the upper hand on talent wise on offense, at least. Washington does. So I think it's going to come down to how well Michigan can get to Michael Penix and if they can slow him down.
I think the only thing that really Washington has to do defensively, and their defense is bad, but the only thing that they really have to do is if they stop the run and they force J.J. McCarthy to throw, I think they absolutely win that game. Like I said, you just got to force a shootout. Another thing is about Michael Penix is that there is going to be a lot of comparisons with Michael Penix over the next couple weeks about being left-handed. Yep. Michael Irvin already came out this week and said that he was like Michael Vick. Michael Penix, total rush yards this year, I think we're just barely over 100 yards. He's not even close to Michael Vick. I get maybe like the way that he throws the ball, but I don't see any comparison at all except for they're left-handed. You're going to see that over the next couple weeks, which fucking sucks because Michael Penix is literally I think he's the most talented thrower of the football in all of the NCAA. I don't think Caleb Williams can make the same throws that Michael Penix can do. I don't think that he's as talented, like throwing the football at all. I said that I think Michael Penix is the best quarterback, but Caleb Williams is the best athlete.
Yeah.
And for me, I'd rather have Michael Penix. And that 101 for Chicago is going to be really tough, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys versus the Detroit Lions game. The 2-point conversion. So I'm going to pull that up. There was a situation where basically that the tackle was supposed to be eligible because he went to the ref and said, I'm reporting eligible. And the referee didn't catch it, or he was confused because there were multiple people there. Yep. I thought it was the most ridiculous thing that I've ever seen. And I thought Detroit was really smart because Dan Campbell said before the game to the referees that there was going to be a situation like that. And I'm sure he explained that he was going to have multiple people come up. What do you think of that? I mean, and I know the referees have been awful this year, but I think that just put the cherry on top for the NFL season.
Yeah, I think the whole situation was a disaster. The fact that Dan Campbell talked to the refs for the game about that particular play and everything, the fact that he called the wrong person ineligible. So apparently they did something similar where number 70 was eligible for a play earlier in the game. So I guess maybe the referee just assumed that, and number 70 was running up to the ref before the play started. They also had Penix Jr come over, and they also had 68. Can't remember what his name is exactly, but so they had 3 different linemen kind of approaching the ref, but like 68, and you can see in the huddle that Jared Goff actually tells 68, go over there right now to him and say that. People are saying, like, why did they send so many offensive linemen? It's because they were trying to fool the defense into which one was actually reporting eligible, I guess, even though they announced it. Like, it's a loud stadium. Like, you can't always hear that, I guess. So, like, the other thing I just don't understand is, like, even after, so apparently also, like, the offense tackle that actually catches the pass on this 2-point conversion was covered up by a outside receiver. So technically he was ineligible anyways. But I mean, they don't even mention that. Like, I think the Gene Steratore or whoever the rules analyst is, like, up in the booth, like he mentions that. But so who knows if they even call that because they called illegal touching instead. But I mean, after you get that and that happens, like, what is Dan Campbell doing? Like, I don't understand. Just kick the extra point and go into overtime.
They deserve to lose anyway.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know. People were saying, like, he had to go for it because there's still 23 seconds left, and I don't know if Dallas had any timeouts or whatnot, but there's a chance of the what if. And
you think Mike McCarthy is going to go down he's the most conservative play caller?
I don't think so at all. No, not at all. And that's, and people are getting into, apparently in situations like this, Roger Goodell has the chance to overturn it, but that's also the other factor is there's always the what if factor of, like, they throw a deep ball and it gets a pass interference and all of a sudden they're in field goal range. So I don't know. I hated the way that decided the game though. That whole thing.
I wish it would have counted. It would have been really cool.
Yeah, and it sucks for the Detroit Lions, even though you're very think that you definitely think they're fraudulent.
Yeah.
I'm on the same page.
But they had the chance for the number 1 seed still at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if they had won that game, they had definitely locked up the number 2 seed, which would have been a huge advantage. Yeah.
Huge if they want to make it to the NFC Championship.
Yeah,
game.
and then at the same time, it also, because Dallas won, even though I don't believe in the Eagles either, screwed them out of getting the number 2 seed as well. Because essentially with the matchups this week, Dallas is playing the Commanders. Like, they're going to do enough to win that game, I would think. Even though last year, Sam Howell, the final week of the season, knocked off the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
You never know what's going to happen, but it's just a lot to hate for a game to finish that way, especially this late in the season with so much on the line.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know, so I put in my notes here that 100% should have counted. I didn't know that he was covered up, which is interesting. I'm going to go back and look at that because I didn't even see that, honestly. But you can also see what I just don't understand is not only that, but I think the other portion of this is the referees getting punished by not being able to go to the playoffs, which I thought was absolutely not enough punishment. I mean, just because they don't get to referee in a playoff game, they get to referee this weekend with huge implications on the line. They're going to ref the Baltimore Ravens versus the Pittsburgh Steelers game, which doesn't mean much for Baltimore. Understand, it doesn't mean anything, but for Pittsburgh, it means a lot. So if these referees don't show up or do what and they've been a part of different situations throughout the year as well. It hasn't just been this one instance where they've been called out for their shit. I think that, and we talked about this before, how are they not suspended for the rest of the regular season and possibly into next year? Just because you demote them from the playoffs doesn't mean that they're not going to come back next year and do the same shit that they're doing this year. If you're trying to clean up the referee issue in the NFL, you're going to have to replace these refs. It was the same situation when the referees weren't getting paid enough and you had those interim refs in and then they had to go and pay those guys. Well, why not just get rid of the guys that aren't doing well and replace them? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And also, if something happens this weekend where the Steelers get screwed, what is the NFL going to do? Are they finally going to put their foot down and say, we messed up, like, we're just going to take them out of the game completely after a team potentially gets screwed out of the playoffs? I think it's bogus what the NFL is doing between this. But also with Dan Campbell, that's another conversation I want to have, is that his nuts are huge. We understand. I see the freaking South Park memes with the fucking huge balls in the freaking wagon. Yep. I mean, great for him. He has huge nuts, whatever. But those huge nuts are going to hurt the Detroit Lions in the playoffs. And I understand that they really didn't have much to play for here, but they kind of did. Like, you need to treat it as like, we have a chance to get the number 1 seed. We also have a chance to get the 2 seed. So if you win 2 playoff games and somehow San Francisco gets kicked out, you get a home NFC Championship playoff game, which is huge for Detroit, especially with their inexperience in the playoffs, and being in a home dome would really help. I don't understand what Dan Campbell was doing. And for him to go on the radio, I don't know if you saw that either. He went on the radio and basically told them, like, he said the radio host was asking him about it, and then he went off and said, well, why don't you just ask me what you really want to ask me? And he was like, well, what do you mean? He was like, tell me how you would like a regular fan. Well, I think it's an outrageous decision. And he said, well, I disagree with you. You disagree with the fact that it was a bad decision? Like, at some point you need to hold yourself accountable and not just the referees.
Yeah, and that's I mean, it's either you're going to love them or you're going to hate them. John Harbaugh's also had decisions like this. I mean,
and it screwed him over a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I mean, like the Pittsburgh game last year that we went to when they went for 2 with Mark Andrews, like, and I always agree to an extent, like on that first. If you're in a hostile environment, it's a close game. Like, you just want to do that play and you want to win it, because if you haven't played well all day, like, your chances of winning in overtime in a hostile environment, like, are lower, I would think. But, like, to have 3 opportunities to be like, your first one doesn't make it, your second one doesn't make it. Okay, maybe we take the extra point and see what happens in overtime. But it's either going to pay off for him and everyone's going to love him, or it's going to lose him a game and everyone's going to hate him.
Yeah.
And that's I saw another interview he had after the game. I think it might have been like their first practice or whatever. He's talking about something like unreleased fury or something.
Yeah,
I don't know exactly. I can't remember
exactly
exactly what his phrase is, but I guess he's just going to turn around and try to use it as like motivation for his team going forward. But yeah, it's one of those situations where having the big balls just didn't pay off for him. And I don't know. I haven't seen a ton of Lions fans like slander, because they know that's the type of guy he is, and like,
yeah, I mean, he's a good head coach.
He is. It's the like you said though, those situations where he's ballsy and he's just going to go for it every single time. Like, it's going to hurt him eventually, like it just did. And if it's in the playoffs, I think he's going to get a lot more hate for it.
Well, I think the other thing too is that I think that in general, like playing against an NFC opponent that you might see in the playoffs, like to lose a game like that is absolutely like gut wrenching because it's like you're going to see them again. And I know that they might have confidence saying, well, we only lost by a 2-point conversion, but losing that first game, I mean, that would hurt me in general, being like, where are we really at in like this seeding? Like they were the higher seed, you know, they were known as one of the best teams in the NFC to a lot of people for some reason, but I don't know. I think that's gut wrenching. But moving on, I wanted to talk about this. I know that we've talked about it the past couple weeks, is Lamar Jackson and his MVP candidacy. You came on here and told me CMC was the MVP. Is he still the MVP in your opinion, or did Lamar Jackson solidify his second MVP?
I think I've come to terms that Lamar Jackson should and is going to be the MVP. The fact that even after he proved that they were the best team in the NFL, like he went out and threw 5 touchdown passes.
Yeah, Jackson 5.
Yeah. So and CMC, like he didn't have a terrible week, but he ended up getting hurt against the Commanders. Like they won 27-10, like convincing, but like not as convincing as you think they would against the Commanders. I know CMC got hurt, but he didn't have a crazy stat line. And like I said, if Lamar came out these last 2 weeks, and I don't even know if I need, who knows if he's going to even play this week.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. I think we'll get into that a little bit later.
I'm curious about that.
But to finish that game with 5 touchdown passes, and I think he finished with a perfect passer rating, I believe, too. So like I said, if he came out and he dominated the last 2 games, probably not going to play this last week. We don't know. Yeah. But I think he's done enough, and I think he's done enough, right, especially with a year where QB's play has been down in general. Like, I think he's by far been the best quarterback. Yeah. Has led his team to being the best team in the NFL, has the best record right now. I think it's going to finish with the best record. So at least tied with it. So I don't think there's any question anymore. So
yeah, I mean, just some statistics that from his MVP year. I know that Richard Sherman came on and said, well, it's not the same as his MVP year. He's been better than his MVP year. The touchdown passes do not tell the story. So he has the best completion percentage of his career at 67.2, which is honestly like a better statistic, in my opinion, than the touchdown passes are. Completion percentage shows how accurate you are. And then also, he only had 7 interceptions. His MVP year, he had 6. So he's about even in that statistic as well. He also has the most yards in his career as well, 3,600. And honestly, if he plays this weekend, if he played a full game, I don't think he'd get to that 4,000 yard mark, but I think he'd get to that 3,800, 3,900 mark, which is insane for a quarterback who's known for running and also having over 700 yards of rushing yards is an insane statistic as well. So I think I think we all agree he's absolutely the MVP. Now, one of the questions that I didn't prepare you for, but I saw it today and I was curious, is Lamar winning his second MVP and potentially getting it unanimously, potentially, is he a Hall of Fame quarterback?
I
think that's a better question because 2 MVPs, he's in a tier with like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning.
I can't think of many other quarterbacks because it's such a QB heavy thing, like that have won it just unanimously, like 2 out of 2 times.
Even if he wins it, is he a gold jacket? Not even unanimously.
I think he's creeping up on it. I think the only thing he needs to add to his resume at this point is some playoff action. Yeah. Some more playoff wins, and if he goes and wins a Super Bowl.
Yeah, what if he wins a Super Bowl
this year? If he goes on and wins a Super Bowl this year, I think the conversation is very strong for him for him to get that gold jacket. So, and to think about, like, he's still very young too, though.
Yeah,
like,
he's 26.
He's got plenty of football ahead of him. So as long as he keeps up this pace, I mean, Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl and he made it into the Hall. So if he keeps up this play and wins 2 or goes on and wins 3 or 4 MVPs, like, I think for sure, like, Lamar should be in the Hall of Fame conversation.
I personally think if he wins a Super Bowl this season, and everybody's going to say you have on your you know what I hate about Ravens fans is that there's a half that has purple glasses on, and then there's a half that is absolutely scrutinizes the team for everything that they do and what Lamar Jackson does. And they're going to hate on me for this, but if Lamar Jackson wins a Super Bowl this season, he could retire the next year. He could just retire. The next day he could retire. He has a gold jacket on. And the reason is because he's going to go down as the greatest dual threat quarterback of all time. No questions asked. Nobody did it like he did. Not Steve Young, not freaking Michael Vick, none of those guys. They never did it like Lamar Jackson did. He'll have a Super Bowl on his resume, 2 MVPs, all pros. I think he'll go down with 2 all pros. I mean, in my opinion, if he wins it, if he retired the next day, he revolutionized the game of football to me, because now people are going to want to find that same quarterback. They've already tried to find a quarterback, and I think you're going to see it this year with a lot of people wanting to take Caleb Williams over Michael Penix, is because he has that rushing factor. And I think part of it is because of Lamar Jackson, and also Jaden Daniels. He's going to go in the first round because of his rushing ability as well. It's not just because he throws the ball so well. I personally think that Lamar's going to go down in the Hall of Fame if he wins the Super Bowl, but I am very not as optimistic that they're going to win the Super Bowl, just because I'm nervous and scared. But in that game, I want to talk about Miami more than Baltimore, because we've talked about Baltimore too much. Mike McDaniel, I think he should be scrutinized a little bit more for his performances this season. I don't think he's had his team prepared against 500 teams. So just some statistics for you is he has 1 win over a team above 500, the Dallas Cowboys. He also left Chubb on the field down 30 points with 4 minutes left, and Chubb tore his ACL. He has the potential to lose the AFC East after leading all year long and even having a multiple game lead. And against 500 teams, they average 18 points per game. What do you think about Mike McDaniel? I know that everybody loves him. I love him, but I also think that it's not talked about enough. We're talking about Tua a lot. Does McDaniel have his team prepared against these good teams?
Yeah, and I love Mike McDaniel too. I think he's one of the exciting young coaches in the NFL, but I don't know if it's the coaching. I don't know if it's just the Dolphins are not built to beat good teams. At least teams that have good defenses and okay offenses. Like, if they are not able to get into a shootout or just like completely do whatever they want on offense, I don't believe in them. If they get slowed down at all on offense, then I just feel like their whole game plan gets thrown off. And that's I think watching that game, they said that the Dolphins have a top 5 defense, and I'm just like, how? Like, I don't understand it. I guess it's if they're not able to score more than 30 points, like, I just don't see them winning the game. And I don't know what it is, but like the fact that I think it was 56-19 at the time when Chubb got hurt. It's like, why are they in there? And then also, I don't know what time he got hurt, but Xavier Howard, I think he's out. He's possibly going to be out for this Bills game as well.
Yeah, he got hurt earlier in the game.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So but to end up losing Bradley Chubb at that late of the game when you're playing for the number 2 seed in this next week, like, I guess that definitely comes down to Mike McDaniel. But for these not being able to win against good teams, I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's not preparing them well, or if this team is just not built to do that, or does it come down to also they're just not good in cold weather? Yeah,
I mean, that's a question that we've brought up multiple times. I just don't think they're physical enough. Like, I think so. Vic Fangio is known as one of like the best defensive coordinators in the league. He's been well respected around the league, and I just don't understand where that comes from, because he used to have Denver's defense, who was pretty good, but it never wowed me. Like, in this defense has never wowed me. He's the highest paid defensive coordinator in the league. I understand they're top 5 or whatever you said in defense, but I mean, against good teams, they're not. So, of course, the numbers are going to inflate when you play such bad offenses all the time. I don't know. I just think that McDaniel needs a little bit more criticism, and I think it's being hidden just because he's so cool. They're on Hard Knocks. They're freaking showing his press conferences every single week and talking about how cool he is. But in reality, like, he's only won, I think, 2 games with teams that are in the playoffs the past 2 years. So, like, that needs to be talked about a little bit more.
No, I think you hit it right the nail right on the head with they're just not physical enough. They have, at least on that defense, the whole team is all about finesse. I feel like they're all about the speed. And the only guy I can think of is Bradley Chubb that can play physical. Like, they got a Jalen Ramsey, who is a physical cornerback, but he's also kind of finesse guy. Xavier Howard, finesse guy. I think one of their other good Van Ginkel, like I feel like he's just a complete finesse guy. So I think that's what it is. And when they go up against teams that have good defenses that are going to be physical with them, it hinders their offense. And then on defense, like a team like Baltimore is just going to run it down their throat and then opens up the passing for them as well. So I think you hit it right on the head with just they get out physical against good teams, and that's why the good teams are good, because they're more physical than everyone else. So
and I don't feel like they have that leader on defense. They don't have that spokesperson on defense to lead. And I think you can see it with the top teams in the league. Like San Francisco, for example, they have Fred Warner. He's always holding people accountable. Baltimore, obviously, with Roquan Smith. And all these top teams, Detroit, even with their defensive guys, Dan Campbell is one of those leaders on the team. Like it just feels like, and we were just critical of Dan Campbell, but one of the things that he is he's a leader, and they don't need that player to hype them up because they have that leader. So like, I just feel like Mike McDaniel is all for show. Like I just don't see him as a true leader of that team. I feel like he's too player friendly. And even when you watch Hard Knocks, and I haven't even watched much of it, but I've seen clips of it with him, it just feels like he's not getting the guys as riled up over these losses. Or like I saw a clip yesterday about the Baltimore game. Like he was like trying to prepare them, and he was gloating about Lamar Jackson, which is great, but it never was, we need to attack. We need to make sure that, all he said was tackle, tackle, tackle. Like, no, we want to get to this guy and make sure that we absolutely dominate the line of scrimmage. We make sure that we wrap up. Like, I don't get that feeling with him. Like, I just feel like it's all for fun, and like he's trying to be nice to these guys because he's so young. I feel like it's hard for him to get them motivated.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like from what I've watched from Hard Knocks, it's just like he's trying to get everyone to like him. Like he's trying to be a player's coach, but at some point, like you have to also be critical of the players and what they're doing wrong. And I get it, trying to form good connections with your players and everything, but you got to have that
balance.
Exactly. You got to be able to criticize them, and you can't just be friendly with them all the time. And like from what I've watched on Hard Knocks, like that's all he does with Tua, is he's just like he's trying to be buddy with him pretty much. Like he's just trying to be, and I guess maybe the age thing comes into that, where he's so close to these guys in age. But when the good coaches, like they know when to love you, and they know when to really give it to you, and that's what makes you a better player.
Exactly.
Like you can't always just be hyped up all the time, because that'll get in your head, and that's just not good for you. So
right. Did you see the video? So to end off talking about this game, did you see the video of John Harbaugh doing his dance moves?
I did.
What would you rate him?
For a guy his age, for a guy that you never really see that out of, I'm gonna give him an 8.5. It was a lot of passion behind it.
It was a lot of passion. I've never seen him act like that. And then he said it was one of the greatest wins that he's ever been a part of. And also, did you see him? He had blood on his hand after the game, and he smeared it across his head.
Go out there. Come back here. Go across there. Come back here. Play there. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I'm bleeding. I'm so proud of you. Put it on the forehead right there. Yeah! That's who it is. That's you, man. So, listen, everybody, you win the division.
And he said, man, I'm so excited I'm bleeding. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to put it on my forehead. He was like, about that. He was like, we have that killer mentality. And he said, I'm right there with you. So shout out to John Harbaugh. I want to pull those two things up and show you guys that, just because I thought that was super motivational. And then also there was a tweet with a reporter from the Miami Dolphins that I'll pull up as well, that said that Baltimore was shameless and John Harbaugh was shameless for throwing the ball late in the game. Tyler Huntley, obviously the Ravens are the first team ever to have two quarterbacks have a perfect passer rating. Tyler Huntley threw one pass for a touchdown to Charlie Collar. What do you think about that really fast?
I'm over all that shit. Even like when we played high school football, people scrutinize our head coach for running up the score. Like, I'm over that shit. Like, get over it. If you're getting blown out, like, be better. Like
exactly.
That's like, especially in the fucking NFL. Like, get over it. Like it's especially with a team like Baltimore that in recent years have let off the gas and have ended up losing games.
Exactly.
Like last year against the Dolphins.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to keep the foot on the gas, and especially for a team like Baltimore that's trying. I don't even think they're trying to. They've proved that they're the best team in the league. Like they're trying to assert their dominance and go into. And like we said, we don't know what they're going to do in Week 18. So maybe if they rest their starters, they wanted to end off on a hot note and just be like, okay, we're in stride. We know what we're doing, and we're going to end that way. So,
Well, I don't even understand how Miami can talk about it when they blew out the Broncos 70 points.
it's because they didn't go for the record.
Oh, they didn't go for the record. But just to let you know that they threw a freaking deep ball to Robbie Chosen Anderson late in the game for no reason. So, like, I don't understand what the point is or why people are getting upset over it. Like, Tyler Huntley's going to start next week. Or this week, you might as well like get him some reps, like at least one throw, and it's to a third string tight end. We're not throwing to OBJ with Lamar Jackson up by 50 points. Like it's not the same thing. So I
saw a statistic that it's either the first time ever or the first time since like 1950 that two quarterbacks on the same team finished with a perfect passer rating.
Yeah, it was something like that. Something insane.
With Tyler Huntley's one pass for a touchdown.
I mean, got to give it to a Pro Bowl quarterback, Tyler Huntley, who probably won't be on the Ravens next year. But let's move on to the NFC. So the Eagles Cardinals. So I was at a bar in Ocean City, and it was full of Eagles fans. Surprisingly, I guess it's because we're near the Delaware line, which is near Philly, whatever it is. They were very, very upset. I couldn't believe they lost the game. I was barely paying attention to it until it got closer with the Cardinals. So the Cardinals came back from 21-6 and win the game. What is wrong with the Philadelphia Eagles?
I don't know where to start, to be honest. I feel like it changes every week. I think the first thing that I point to, and maybe this is because I have a lot of Eagles fans that are on my Twitter, I went to college with a lot of Eagles fans, is Brian Johnson. Yeah. I think we've talked about that all year. Like his play calling is so predictable. He's you know it's coming on a third down, and no matter, like I feel like I've seen a QB draw on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 12, like or a wide receiver screen. Like I think that's where you start with. Defensively, like I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what, like, they've got, you would think on paper, the best defensive line in the league. But I don't understand how you end up giving up 35 points to the Cardinals. I guess maybe Kyler Murray's hitting a stride and he's trying to prove some stuff at the end of the year. I don't know. I didn't really pay attention to that game because I thought it was going to be a blowout.
Yeah, me too.
And then come to find out, they end up losing that game 35-31. I don't know where to start. And I feel like seeing A.J. Brown, like, after the game not wanting to answer questions and stuff, like, in the beginning of the year when they were sloppy, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna figure it out. Like we're still like we're best teams don't want to like figure it out early in the year or whatever." They still haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
And I feel like one of the things is they like leaned on being a brotherhood last year, and I just don't feel like it's there this year.
Yeah,
like,
I just
feel like
don't see any leadership.
Their struggles, they're just kind of like all turning on each other. I feel like, and I haven't seen anyone like besides A.J. Brown being upset with not getting the ball and like talking to Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni or whatever. Like I just don't feel like they're like leaning on each other like they were last year, and I just don't think it's the same team anymore.
Yeah, it just feels like it's full of selfish players who think just because they made the Super Bowl last year was going to be a cakewalk this year. A lot of people were saying that it was going to be the Eagles in San Francisco in the NFC Championship. When you hear that kind of talk, like I feel like as a team, like you can get a little bit sloppy in the beginning and feel like it's going to be a coast. But now, like, I thought ever since they lost those couple games, I thought maybe they would turn it around because I'm like, you know what? Like, they have some leaders on that team, but it just doesn't feel like it's motivating any of these younger players like A.J. Brown. Like, I just, and we'll talk about A.J. Brown in a second, but I mean, they're 1-4 in their last 5 games. They blew a 15-point lead. The problem, I understand the Brian Johnson issue, and that's been a problem, but I mean, to put up 21 points and be up by that much, you need to win the game defensively. They allowed 29 points in the second half, which is the most that they've given up this year. 449 total yards, the most that they've given up this year to Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals offense without their top receiver in Hollywood Brown as well. The Eagles offense didn't provide any help. It only had 275 yards. I get the scrutiny, but also the defense needs to hold up in the second half. And the time of possession battle, it felt like the defense was on the field the entire game when I was watching. The Cardinals had 39 minutes of time of possession to the Eagles 20 minutes. So the defense is not getting stops when they need to. The defense feels lazy. And everybody's like, well, Matt Patricia. I don't think it's his fault. I don't think it's any defensive coordinator's fault, no matter who you plug in. I think the problem is there is no discipline on that defense, and it feels like nobody is tackling, nobody's wrapping up, nobody is holding each other accountable. Like, I don't know what, and they didn't even force one punt the entire game to an Arizona Cardinals offense who has stunk all year. And I don't know. I don't know what the Eagles do. I feel like that they're gonna probably lose the NFC East. Now that the Cowboys hold their own way to the NFC East title against the Commanders, I don't know. And a lot of people are blaming Nick Sirianni. Do you feel like a lot of people are calling for his head, so which is very surprising. He was just in the Super Bowl last year. Do you think he should take some of this blame for this?
I mean, I think any portion of a team like this, like the head coach is going to get scrutinized no matter what. I mean, looking at these statistics that you just said, like the time of possession, like Eagles are not a team that you think should be losing that. Like they should.
That's their game.
Yeah, like they should, like with that offensive line, with DeAndre Swift, with Jalen Hurts, like they should be running the ball. They should be holding the ball. They should be marching down the field in these long possession drives. But I don't feel like I've seen it, and they definitely didn't do it against the Cardinals. Obviously, I expect more out of their defense. Like I don't know what's wrong, but if you're on defense that much of the game, like there's going to be problems. So
Yeah.
it's understandable, I guess, to a point of what's going on, but I think Sirianni, I'm not going to say he's a bad coach at all, but I think without good offensive and defensive coordinators, he's a different coach for sure.
Right.
He had two very solid offensive and defensive coordinators last year, and I guess maybe he just leaned on them a lot last year. But I guess maybe without him, he's not as good of a head coach as everyone thinks. And I know everyone's calling for his head. Like Philly's they expect a lot, especially after going to the Super Bowl last year. They're a very passionate fan base. They're a very ruthless fan base.
Right.
So I can see that. But I don't think it's time for him to go anywhere. I think it's maybe time to look at getting new offensive and defensive coordinators.
Yeah.
But I see them heading towards a first round exit, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
No matter who they play, honestly.
Exactly.
If they have to travel on the road.
Yeah. So the Nick Sirianni being fired BS is terrible because he's 34-16 overall. He's 2-2 in the postseason. He's made the postseason, obviously, and he's performed well in the postseason. The first time they went to the postseason, Jalen Hurts was, younger. And then when they got some experience, he took them to a Super Bowl. So he lost both coordinators. So for the people that say like, oh, Sirianni hired these offensive defensive coordinators this season, he hired within. He didn't go outside the organization. He probably got a tip from the offensive defensive coordinator saying, hey, these are my guys right underneath me. They know what they're doing. You should hire them. I 100% think that went down. So I don't blame Nick Sirianni for hiring these guys who were a part of that team last year and who were underneath Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen. They were underneath them. So they probably learned a lot. I would have hired them too. So I don't blame him. And it just proves, like you said, no head coach is good without their coordinators unless they come from like Kyle Shanahan, for example. He was an offensive coordinator. He doesn't need to hire an offensive coordinator, but he needs to hire a good defensive coordinator, which he's done a ton and had one even hired to Houston last year with DeMeco Ryans. I just don't feel like it's Nick Sirianni's fault at all. And they're trying to compare it to Doug Peterson, but it's not the same thing at all. And Doug Peterson, I think, got 4 years after that Super Bowl to turn it around, and he didn't. I mean, and part of that problem was Carson Wentz. And I don't know. No head coach is good without hiring good offensive and defensive coordinators. And he just hired the guys that were probably recommended to him from the other one. So if he goes out and he hires a good offensive and defensive coordinator, then everybody's going to praise him and say how great of a head coach he is. I mean, most head coaches aren't coordinators. It's just not like that.
Yeah, and I mean, Jonathan Gannon not doing well with the Cardinals, but they were a terrible situation. Kyler was out for the first however many games of the year, just a bad situation there. But look at what Shane Steichen's doing with the Colts right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody would think that the Colts were going to be in postseason, potentially getting to the postseason, especially with Anthony Richardson going out and Gardner Minshew being the head guy. And for them to still be in playoff contention, and possibly have a good chance of locking up a spot this week. I mean, depending on how they do against the Texans, I don't know exactly. I can pull it up, but regardless, for them to be 9-7 right now with what happened this season, I definitely didn't see the Colts being anywhere near the playoffs.
No.
Even with Anthony Richardson,
No.
he was playing well, but I didn't think he was going to come in and be able to lead them to the playoffs just yet.
And Richardson looked good with Shane Steichen,
He looked very well. They're going to have to figure out the injury thing with him, but regardless, I thought it was going to take him at least a year or two to figure it out. So for the fact that But it just goes to show that he had very good very good coordinators last year, and
he should get some praise for hiring those guys.
No, for sure.
Exactly.
And they were very good coordinators. So obviously you take those recommendations seriously from Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen, and that's why he hired from within.
Right.
So I think that's kind of I don't understand this. Nick Sirianni should be fired.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It's just because all the fans are upset that they're losing. Yeah. It's not the same as last year. And I understand that you're frustrated or whatever, but losing 2 coordinators in 1 year, it hurts. It's really hard for a head coach to really go and hire guys that are just as good as the past guys. So I don't understand the Sirianni hate. But A.J. Brown, I understand the hate for him right now and why Eagles fans are a little bit frustrated with A.J. Brown. He didn't want to talk after the game. I'll pull up the clip now.
I'm not about to talk. Not going to talk today? Can you tell us why? If it was me talk, that would be talking. There's nothing to say. I think you'll talk this week. You don't know. It ain't directly towards y'all though.
I think it shows a lack of leadership. You got your $100 million contract. You loved the Eagles last year. Everything was going well. And when things get tough, like you don't want to talk to the media. Like I don't get it. Like it's part of your contract to talk to the media. For everybody that's like, oh, like these players shouldn't have to talk to, like you're getting paid millions of dollars. Like it's part of your contract. Like talk to these guys and like, you know, I feel like it's showing the other guys on the team, like, you know, if he's not going to take it seriously, I'm not going to take it seriously. And it just trickles down. AJ, I don't know. I just feel like AJ Brown is starting to show some of the signs that he was doing in Tennessee when it was towards the end when his contract situation was coming up.
Yeah, and I feel like last year and even the beginning of this year when they started 10-1, when everything was sunshine and rainbows and everything was going well, he's the first one that is gonna be like talk his stuff during his interviews. But then when things start going bad, you're not going to step up and be a leader, and you're supposed to be, if not probably the best like player on your offense. Like,
yeah.
And so for you to be showing that type of leadership, I think it's a bad look for the team, and it just kind of shows where they're at right now, to be honest.
Exactly. Another huge player, or one of the best players on the Philadelphia Eagles, is Jalen Hurts. There has been a viral videos going around. Have you heard of Drew Walls?
I've heard of him, but I haven't seen this video yet, so I'm excited to see it.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to pull up this video. So somebody said that this would be Jalen Hurts if he didn't have the tush push. So what's crazy about this is that he's setting up his camera to park his car.
This is this guy. Got it. Yep.
But anyway, you get the point. You see how he's setting up all these cameras, just imagine yourself like in front of all of these people in a freaking like grocery store, setting up a camera. What amount of money would it take for you to recreate that?
Tens of thousands of dollars, I'd have to say. Like the fact you walk into the store, set up the tripod, walk back out, and then just so you can film yourself walking in, and that's got to be time consuming too.
Dude, that's got to take hours, and then you have to edit it all.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, shout out to him for all the hard work, I guess, but there is just no dude. He literally parks his car, gets out of his car, sets up a tripod, pulls out, and then pulls back in everywhere that he goes for this entire trip. Like, that is the most insane thing I've ever seen on the internet. And for people to give that clout is insane. And I get it, the self-care thing for men and like trying to motivate guys to, hit the gym. Like, he has some gym videos, really take care of yourself as a man. But at some point, man, you got to have some shame. And bullying has to come back to the world in general, because if it doesn't, we're going to have more people doing this bullshit that's just absolutely cringeworthy. And there's got to be guys in his circle that are telling him, bro, you don't have to set up a tripod every time we go out.
Yeah, but he's getting exactly what he wanted right now. He's getting that
Yeah.
clout, whether it's good or bad. He's getting the clicks. He's getting the attention. So, I mean, good for him, I guess. But I would laugh my ass off if I saw somebody do this. And I've seen some people doing some like parodies of it, and they're pretty damn.
Oh
funny.
my God, there was this one guy from Barstool, I think, that did it, and he was built different. I'll have to show you the video after this, and I'll try and find it. But it was the funniest shit I've ever seen. But I don't know where I just don't even know where he got the thought or the idea. And I wonder what I wish I would see it in person. Like, I wish I would see somebody doing that, because I would absolutely say something and be like, dude, I don't want to be in your video. There's no way that other people aren't calling him out. Or like the cash register, like people, there's no way that they're sitting there like, dude, I don't want to be recorded right now. He probably switches to different lanes until the person says like, oh, I'm okay with being recorded. So week 18, we'll talk about week 18. So a lot of great games. So there's been a lot of criticism with the schedule makers in week 18 and past years. Do you think they got it right this year? So I have the schedule pulled up right now so you can see it. Is there anything that you thought that they got wrong with this scheduling of week 18?
I'm kind of iffy about it because there's a lot of meaningless games, but there's also a lot of meaningful games. Like I mean, the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins Sunday Night Football.
That was the easiest decision.
Yeah,
ever.
for sure. And the fact that it's either there's a chance for the Buffalo Bills to either have the number 2 seed or to not make the playoffs at all. Like that's electric. There's some other ones that are. I mean, I've got a list of like playoff scenarios here, but there could be. I think the chances of different teams being in there is like more than I can remember. Like there's not just like fighting for like wild card spots or anything. Like there's a lot of games, and although like the NFC East, like Eagles are playing the Giants, like you would think the Eagles win that, but after we just saw last week, we never know what's going to happen. Cowboys play the Commanders. You would think Cowboys are going to win that game last year.
But you never know.
Yeah, Commanders knocked off Cowboys in the last game. Didn't mean as much to the Cowboys last year as it does this year. So maybe Cowboys come out with more fire under them. But I'm excited for the games. I am.
Yeah, I'm super excited for them. So if you don't know what the playoff clinching scenarios are, I wanted to go through them with everybody so everybody's on the same page, and so you don't have to look it up and confuse yourself completely. So for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because that's the first game of the weekend, Saturday night, Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers, this is how the Pittsburgh Steelers clinch a playoff berth. Pittsburgh needs a win. They can lose, but I'm not going to go over that situation. More than likely, they have to win. They need a Buffalo loss or a Jacksonville loss, or they need the Houston Texans and Indianapolis Colts to tie. There is scenarios if Pittsburgh ties, they can get in, but I'm not going to go over that because there's no point. It's probably not going to happen. For the Colts to make the playoffs, Indianapolis needs to win and Jacksonville needs to lose, or Indianapolis can tie and Jacksonville needs to lose. So basically, they need Jacksonville to lose. For the Buffalo Bills, what's funny about the Buffalo Bills is that they can miss the playoffs entirely. There is a scenario where they can miss the playoffs, but they can also get the 2 seed. So it's almost like they can get the 2 seed or they can be out of the playoffs completely. So Buffalo, they win, they clinch the AFC East title, and they are your number 2 seed in the AFC after a disastrous, it felt like, first half of the NFL season, which is crazy. They can clinch a playoff berth with a tie, or they can clinch with a Pittsburgh loss or a Jacksonville loss or a Houston and Indianapolis tie. They can miss the playoffs if they lose and Pittsburgh and Jacksonville both win. So if they both win, Buffalo is completely out. So they have a lot to play for. And with those playoff clinching scenarios, if you look at the schedule, I love it because with the Eagles and with the Commanders, they're playing at the same time. So we have a race at 425 to see who's going to win the NFC East. And for the Saturday games, they have the Texans and the Colts the day before Jacksonville plays, which basically implicates all of what's going on with their playoff scenarios as well. They need Jacksonville to lose to Tennessee. And then we also have with the 4 o'clock games, we also have the Green Bay Packers. They win and they're in as well. So we have 3 games going on at 4 o'clock that are absolutely going to be madness. Red Zone is going to be completely crazy. And just to end with the Sunday night game, the Bills will know their destiny. And if Pittsburgh wins on Saturday and Jacksonville wins on Sunday, they win and they're in, or they lose and they're out. So I think they absolutely killed it. And I'm just super excited. I'm gonna have Red Zone on all day. It's gonna be absolutely insane. With that Buffalo Bills game, do you think that it's more important for the Bills to get home field advantage or for the Dolphins to get home field advantage?
I think it is absolutely way more important for the Dolphins to get home field advantage and get that number 2 seed. As we just saw this past week, they did not play well in a cold environment against the Baltimore Ravens, and I just feel like that's kind of the story for them, and that's been past years. It's a team that plays in warm weather all year long. Like they don't do well in colder weather. And I talked about it last week. I think the Buffalo Bills are a team that, yes, being at home in playoffs mean a lot, but for the Buffalo Bills, it doesn't affect them as much, in my opinion. They're a team that's built for that, and they have the experience with it. Like they've traveled to Kansas City the past few years, and they haven't always won, but they really haven't won, I guess. But they've done well. I feel like Buffalo Bills is a team that they have the experience now on playing on the road, no matter the environment. They play in cold weather. So I think it's absolutely way more important, 1,000 times more important for the Miami Dolphins to have home field advantage compared to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, for sure. And Miami is also 7-1 at home this season. Buffalo is 7-2, so they're about even there. But I just feel like they play better at home. And honestly, I just feel like if Miami doesn't get that home playoff game, I think they're one and done. I don't think they're going to win a playoff game on the road, especially they're more than likely going to be the 6th seed, I think. So they would have to play the number 3 seed, which is probably going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think the Chiefs would, I don't know, actually. I don't know who would win in that game just because both of them just feel like they're off their game right now. So I would love to see that. And if you had a chance to choose, if you were a playoff team, who would you rather see in the first round? Would you rather see Buffalo or would you rather see Miami?
I think when you posed this question to me, I thought about it in a way of if I'm going to play Miami at home, I'd rather see Buffalo. But then if I'm a team that has a solid defense, which we talked about earlier, I think I'd rather see Miami no matter what.
Right.
And every playoff team that's going to be in this year, I don't think there's a chance of a losing record getting in there. I mean, Miami hasn't beaten a team above 500 other than the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So I think my decision is that I'd rather see Miami no matter what. Bills, obviously, they barely beat the Chargers 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and they barely beat the Patriots this week.
Yeah, and that's it's always going to be a tight game in that division, I feel like. But I think my decision is I'd rather see Miami no matter what. It seems that they just don't know how to beat good teams, and every team in the playoff is going to be a good team. And you've made it if you've made it this far, you must have a somewhat solid defense. It's like we just talked about earlier. If you're able to slow down an offense at all, it throws off their entire team chemistry. And the key is to be more physical than them. And
yeah.
I think you're a lot more likely to be more physical than the Dolphins. More physical than the Dolphins than you are the Bills, regardless.
Yeah,
so.
And the Bills have more playoff experience.
Yep.
Josh Allen has way more playoff experience and has played well in the playoffs. Now, here's the thing, okay? I posted a tweet that said that the Josh Allen's playoff wins are a little bit skewed. So if you look at Josh Allen's playoff wins, he beat the Indianapolis Colts with Phillip Rivers, which they were an 11-5 team, but you knew that they weren't going to make it far in the playoffs that season. His other wins came against the Miami Dolphins with a backup quarterback, the New England Patriots with a rookie quarterback, and his best win was against the Baltimore Ravens in that COVID year with no fans in attendance. So I don't know. I after seeing Buffalo the last couple weeks, I'm not impressed. I don't think that they're the hot team that everybody's talking about, that everybody's scared to play Buffalo. In all honesty, I'm okay with seeing either of these teams. I just feel like that unless Buffalo or Miami, I think whoever comes out dominating this game, if one of the teams dominate, I don't want to see that team the next week because they're going to come in hot. And there's no bye week for the 2nd seed now, so they're going to come in riding high. So I think whoever wins that game, I don't want to see because you're going to have to play them in their house after winning a huge game. I don't know. I think it depends on that, but just based off of the teams in general, I think I'd rather see Miami as well. One of the teams that can make the playoffs this weekend is the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is somehow possible, and I don't understand it. Mason Rudolph is playing out of his mind. Looks like the franchise guy, maybe? Probably not. And what do the Pittsburgh Steelers do at quarterback this offseason? There was reports that Kenny Pickett was upset that he wasn't the starter. He came out and said those reports were fake. But it seems like there's a little bit of tension in that quarterback room. So what does Pittsburgh do? Because they're not going to have a high pick. They're going to make the playoffs with Mason Rudolph. They have Kenny Pickett, who was a first-round pick. Like, I don't know what Pittsburgh does.
Yeah, and that's I think the Kenny Pickett experiment is over. I think it's time to move on. Mason Rudolph hasn't had a lot of chances, I feel like, but I don't think he's a franchise guy for them. If I'm being honest, I think it's time to hit a reset button for that franchise, if I'm going to be honest. Whether that's with Tomlin, without Tomlin. Great for him on, his 17th consecutive season of not having a winning record. But
congratulations.
If they lose to the Ravens, they're going to be 9-8.
Yeah.
Like, that is not something to celebrate.
The standard is the standard. That's what Mike Tomlin's standard is, to barely squeeze into the playoffs, not win a playoff game, and to have a winning record, and we cycle it all over again the next season. That's what it feels like every year.
Like, I mean, as a Commanders fan, I'd be happy with 9-8. But the fact is like, eventually, I want to see us go to a Super Bowl. I want to see us win a Super Bowl, and I just don't see that happening anytime soon with the quarterback situation, and maybe even with the Tomlin. So I honestly think it's best right now, at least offensively, maybe even coaching wise, to just hit a reset button, start a rebuild, and try to work on that offense. I feel like this quarterback draft is kind of deep, but I don't know if those top guys, like how far
it's
they're going to
be
fall.
very top heavy.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like the top guys are going to come off the board kind of early, and I don't think Steelers are good. Like, there's going to be a guy there for the Steelers to take.
And the Steelers can jump like all the way. They're going to be like pick like 18, 19, more than likely 17, somewhere around there. And that's just not high enough. And to jump from there all the way up to a top 5 pick is going to cost you at least 2 or 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, and I don't think the weapons they have on offense is a win now sort of situation. It's not like they just need to grab a quarterback and throw him in there, and they're going to be a Super Bowl like caliber team. So. And they should already see with Kenny Pickett. They took a chance on him. I know he was later in the first round, but like, he was kind of a guy that just kind of like fell down to him, and they're like, okay, he's a Pittsburgh guy, we're going to try him. Yeah. But we've already seen how that went.
Forced.
So yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
really forced.
So I don't think they're in a situation where it's like okay, we're content with what's going on. I know that Pittsburgh fans cannot be happy with 9-8 or just these barely winning seasons back-to-back years. Like,
I don't know. They gloat that. So 2 things that Pittsburgh Steelers fans gloat. They gloat the winning seasons every single year, and they gloat beating the Baltimore Ravens once a year. That's the standard that Pittsburgh is at. And I remember when Pittsburgh, if they weren't in the AFC Championship game, like, it was a failed season. Now we're just starting to just let Mike Tomlin like get away with these 9-8, even like. Well, I guess he has to be 9-8 to get a winning season. Like, it's felt like they've been 9-8 for the past 5 years, ever since, or whenever Big Ben left 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know. I just feel like what you said is completely correct. Is that they just need to hit the reset button. I think that they're gonna have to make a huge trade and get one of these top guys if they really want to win. They have great pieces on defense to win. They can get some offensive pieces through free agency with a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal, and you can build around him. You can trade Kenny Pickett for a 5th-round pick, whatever. Like, or even Kenny Pickett can be the backup or even the starter to get the next guy rolling. So I don't know. I just feel like that Pittsburgh, it really blows my mind what the standard is in Pittsburgh now. Like, it just feels like it's not even like when Baltimore didn't make the playoffs 2 years ago, and when they barely squeaked in last year with a backup quarterback, like, we weren't happy about it. Like, no one's happy about that. But it feels like Pittsburgh is at a point now where we get into the playoffs, it's a great year. Yeah. And I just don't we can't let Mike Tomlin keep getting away with this every year.
I think another thing that surprised me is just like the culture that locker room's turned into. Like, the things with George Pickens, the thing that's going on with Kenny Pickett right now. Like, it's I just feel like that organization is kind of slipping, and like Tomlin's like hardcore coaching style, like, it's just not working for them anymore. And I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. It's just like these older coaches, like, they just don't really fit into the league anymore, and it's sad to see. But like Bill Belichick being on the hot seat, Mike Tomlin being on the hot seat, like, you need these younger guys pretty much, and that's
Yeah.
it works out sometimes. Like we just talked about with Mike McDaniel, like you need that player's coach, but you also need someone that's going to be like you need a mix of both almost. And
Mike Tomlin's always been known as a player's coach, which
Yeah.
is crazy. And everybody talks about wanting to play for him. But why are these free agents not going to Pittsburgh? It's like because they know the culture isn't as good as what it used to be. The standard is not what it used to be, and they don't have a quarterback. And I don't know if they fire Mike Tomlin, but I think I did say he probably should be fired a couple weeks ago. But now I'm on the verge of saying like give him a chance with a new quarterback and see what happens, and maybe dump like a guy like Deontay Johnson off the books and just hit the reset on the offense completely, hire a new offensive coordinator, like, and then if it doesn't work from there or any kind of progress, then maybe you fire Mike Tomlin.
yeah,
That's what
I think like I said, a reset button. I think that's on the offense. I don't think you really make any changes at head coach yet. The defense is still solid. They're playing well with even what's going on in offense and them just giving the ball back to the opposing team's offense so often. So I think it's time you find a new quarterback, you add some free agent guys.
Do you think that Mason Rudolph has made that decision hard because of the way he's been playing?
I don't think so. I think Mason Rudolph is a solid backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Maybe, but he's not the guy. He's not the guy. He's not someone that's going to lead them deep into the playoffs. I think it's time to find a new quarterback, and I think it's time to find a true number one wide receiver because I think George Pickens, he's a good wide receiver.
He's not a wide receiver one. I don't know where we're getting that from.
Not at all. And he's more, for me, he's more of a deep threat sort of guy, like the big playmaker sort of guy. He's not a consistent number one go-to sort of guy, in my opinion. And I think Deontay Johnson, I don't think he really ever was. Like he was a solid receiver, but I feel like he's fallen off as well.
He was great when he was a wide receiver too.
100%,
also, like what I don't get about George Pickens is he runs the same damn routes every time. He runs a go route or a slant route, and they throw the back shoulder to him every single time on that go route. And sometimes he beats his guy and gets a deep ball, but like I don't understand how he keeps getting open. Like talented, big wide receiver who can go up and get it. But I just don't understand how these teams just don't put a big physical corner because he's fast, I guess. But it just feels like that George Pickens doesn't have much in his bag. Like I just don't. Like everybody's like, oh, he's so talented. He scores a lot. He's fast. But like if you watch him, like I challenge you to watch him this weekend against Baltimore. And I want you to watch the routes that he runs. He runs 2 damn routes the entire game. If the slant route isn't there, they're going to run him a deep ball and they're going to throw him a back shoulder pass. It's fucking annoying as shit. So Pittsburgh can get into the playoffs. If you're a team, are you praying that you see Pittsburgh in the first round?
I think so. I think any team in the AFC would rather see the Steelers than any other team in the AFC right now.
Not me for some reason. They somehow beat Baltimore.
That's under like I truly believe in divisional games can go either way, no matter if you're the Baltimore Ravens, who's the best team in the league right now, or you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's a fringe team. I'm a true believer in that divisional games are just the toughest games to play, no matter what, because you know each other so well. You play each other 2 times a year, like. It goes either way all the time. The AFC North or AFC East is the same way. Like with the Bills barely beating the Patriots, who are a poverty team this year. Like it's just that's the way divisional games go. So exactly. I understand that. So
yeah, talking about another team that is going to have a huge quarterback situation this upcoming offseason. I don't know if you saw the video of all the Bears fans screaming Justin Fields while at the game. And he's played well down the stretch. It's felt like he's had a really decent year for what he has. And I love Justin. I really hope that he stays in Chicago and figures it out or gets traded somewhere where he is welcomed, such as the Falcons. I'd love to see him there. Do you think that the decision has already been made for them to, because the Bears have the number 1 pick. Do you think that they've already made the decision to go get Caleb Williams, or even, I don't know, Michael Penix might change some minds. I don't think it's going to change, the Bears' mind. They would have to, or else the freaking fan base would go into a frenzy. Yeah. But do you think that they draft Caleb Williams or stick with Justin Fields?
Unfortunately, I feel like the decision has already been made that they're going to move on from Justin Fields, but to be honest, I think the Bears are probably in the best case scenario right now.
Yeah.
Because of how well Fields has played, his trade value has probably skyrocketed from what it was at the beginning of the season. Or they can deal that number 1 pick to someone else and get huge value out of that.
It's going to be way more than what they got last year, too.
100%.
Way more.
So I think they are in best case scenario. I do feel like the decision is already made, but I feel like their best decision is to trade that number 1 pick, to be honest. Trade back to another team that really believes in Caleb Williams, because Justin Fields, I feel like if you get him some help, and he's played better this year, and guess what they did? They went out and got a number 1 wide receiver for him in DJ Moore.
Yeah.
So you keep adding to that offense. You keep the defense has started to play well as well. They have some playmakers on the defense now. So I think he's got the talent to do it. So I think they keep building around Justin Fields, and we see what happens. I don't think it's time to move on from Justin Fields.
Yeah, I think I think they're going to take Caleb Williams just because you don't get the number 1 pick twice in 2 years. And it's like, Justin's due for a contract extension next year. If he doesn't play well, what do you do? It seems like a Daniel Jones situation, even though Justin's more talented. I'm not saying it's the same thing, but they're going to be in a little bit of it's going to be a really hard decision if Justin Fields doesn't play really well next year and they have to contract extend him, or they have to put the franchise tag on, which is super expensive now. I think the only way Chicago does not take a quarterback is if the New England Patriots trade, or Arizona Cardinals. Arizona might take a receiver. I think the only way that they trade down is if Washington trades up, or if the New England Patriots trade up, because I think that they're going to go after Marvin Harrison Jr., and I think so is Arizona. So I think that the only way that they trade out of that is if they know they're going to get that other receiver to go, because him and DJ Moore, they're going to be like, you got to figure it out, Justin. Like at that point, and they'll have enough ammo where if they want to trade back up for the number 1 pick the next year, they could and get the quarterback that they want. That might be the best case scenario, is if one of those teams trades up. But I just feel bad for Justin Fields. Like, I just feel like that he really does love Chicago. Like, he's really embraced it. He's never been a cold weather guy. He was, grew up in Atlanta, really great in domes throughout his career. But he really has just embraced that city in general. And I feel like the city loves him. And I feel like that he can be a franchise guy, but I don't know if it's with Chicago.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I unfortunately think he's going to be, and honestly, somewhere I'd love to see him traded to is probably the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, that's where I want him to go.
Yeah, grew up in Atlanta.
Not with Arthur Smith though. He would have no idea how to use him.
That's true. That's true. As we saw with B. John Robinson this past year.
Yeah.
I think the decision's already made. Like, people think that Caleb Williams is the next coming of Patrick Mahomes.
I don't see it.
I don't see it. I know we've slandered him this whole year, and I'm not rooting like bad for like. I hope it works out.
I'm
for
a
him.
hater. I'm a genuine hater.
Yeah, I'm not rooting for his downfall, but I just don't see him being I've said it before. Like, I feel like he has the coming of a like Zach Wilson-esque career, like where everyone's very high on him. Zach Wilson got taken at number 2. Caleb Williams got taken at number 1, and his personality, his mindset just gets in the way, and he's just not as good as everyone thinks. And Caleb Williams he's a gunslinger, and that can work out for you, or it can be a disaster for you. And he's about to play. We've seen him struggle against good defenses in college football, and Pac-12 is not known for doing that, for having good defenses, and that's why he's done so well. But when he does face the good defenses, he's not great. So I think I'm not high on Caleb Williams, and I see a lot of people talking about the Commanders trading up to get him, or the Bears going in a different direction, like drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. And I hope we don't draft Caleb Williams, if I'm being honest.
This is another conversation. We'll get to our NFL picks after this. But Michael Penix, and I've said it before, he's just the better quarterback. Like, absolutely, I think that if a team has a chance to trade down and still get Penix, I think they're getting the best value. Like, I just don't understand why you want a guy who has never made the college football playoff, and every time that he's had a chance, he's lost. So remember last year when they win and they were in, he got absolutely dominated by Utah, who had a good defense last year. In Oklahoma, he had the number 4 spot basically the entire year. Lost, didn't get in. Like, I don't know. Like, Michael Penix seems like a guy who's a winner to me, and he can make any throw on the field. So, I mean, if it were up to you, would you rather take Michael Penix, Drake May, or Caleb Williams? And I think Drake May's a little bit overrated too.
Yeah. That's I'm right now. I'm saying Drake May is probably gonna be the second QB that's taken off the board, and I don't. And a lot of people were putting him as the Commanders taking him in our mock draft, and we've already taken a UNC guy in Sam Howell. I guess they're saying Drake May is just better. But I would say Michael Penix is the most NFL-ready quarterback coming out of this draft right now.
Yeah.
And maybe he's going to shoot up, and especially if he plays well against Michigan on a lot of these draft boards. But I feel like I'm seeing him like not even in the top 5, which is just insane to me. So if I had the number 1 pick and I'm definitely going quarterback, I think I'm leaning towards Michael Penix right now.
Yeah.
And I know maybe a little recency bias because of they just played.
He's
he
done
did really
it
well.
all year though.
But exactly, he's
Done it
led
all
this
year.
team to 14-0. Like he even played well last year. I think they have the longest winning streak in the NCAA right now, and that's because of his play and the way that the throws that he's able to make with a not very good defense. Like
Right.
he's winning these shootout games, and it's all on his left arm that's being compared to fucking Michael Vick, which doesn't make sense to me. But
Next will be Matt Leinart.
yeah,
Or some
something
shit.
like that. But no, I think Michael Penix would be. I think he's, especially if he plays well against Michigan, is by far my number 1 quarterback coming out of this draft.
Yeah. Wow. I'm surprised that you said that. Yeah. I'm right on board with you. Number 1, like what I would do personally, I would take Penix, but I wouldn't take him at 101 because I feel like it's reaching. I feel like somebody is going to love Caleb Williams. There are teams that already love him. Trade with them, somehow get the second pick and take Penix, or even take Marvin Harrison Jr. I just feel like it's way less risk if you take Penix than Caleb Williams, because I just feel like Michael Penix is ready. And honestly, I hope that he fall. At one point, people are saying he's a late first rounder. If he's a late first rounder, that kid is going to be the best quarterback out of the draft because he's going to be in the best scenario. And unless he goes to Pittsburgh, I will root for Michael Penix for the rest of his career. And I'm really scared that Pittsburgh somehow he's going to fall to him. All right, so let's end it off. Let's talk about our picks for this weekend, Week 18. I cannot believe we are here. Kind of sad. I'm so sad. So sad. I'm ready for the playoffs, but it's
I know
just
it comes
gonna
at
fly.
the end of the playoffs.
Yeah.
I know it comes, and I'm not ready for it.
Yeah, I'm totally. And now all you're going to hear about for the next 2 months is about the draft for the Commanders. So, all right. So let's start off with the Saturday game. So we'll show our brackets after we pick every game. So we'll show who makes the playoffs after our picks. So Baltimore, Pittsburgh.
So in this one, I'm taking Baltimore. And that's I don't know what's going on with the starters, but regardless, for some reason I'm still leaning the Baltimore Ravens. There's a reason they had I don't remember what the streak was in the preseason before we broke it. But
Right.
They've got solid backups, and I'm a believer in Pro Bowl quarterback
Tyler
Tyler
Huntley.
Huntley.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a really close game. I feel like, what's sad is I can't believe that the Ravens lost to Pittsburgh earlier in the year, and I just feel like they split for some reason. I feel like the backups are going to play like this is a playoff game for them. Give me Baltimore. Texans, Colts.
I think Texans are going to win this one. I'm a believer in C.J. Stroud. I am, and he's got a chance to get them into the playoffs with certain scenarios. So if I don't know exactly what their situation is, but obviously they need to win. And if they win, they have a good chance of making the playoffs. So I think they do it.
Yeah, I think they win and they're in, but I could be wrong here. I think there's a couple scenarios where I think they can't get in. I'm taking the Texans as well. Buccaneers, Panthers. This one's actually a bigger game because Tampa Bay wins, they're in.
Yep. So I'm going with the Bucs here. I know they obviously blew it. I thought that they were going to win that game last week.
Yeah, I picked the Saints last week.
Yeah. So I think it's a must-win game. So I think Bucs come out with the win here.
Yeah, I do too. Good for Baker Mayfield. I'm super happy for him and his career, and he's going to get a nice contract extension after he gets this win. So give me the Bucs as well. This game doesn't mean anything for playoff implications, but Bengals and Browns.
So because of that, that's why I'm going with the Bengals. I don't think this game. The Browns have the 5th seed no matter what, so
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to need to play anybody. I feel like they don't have a first-round bye, so they're going to rest their starters. So I think Bengals come out with the win.
Yeah, I almost picked the Browns here, but I went the same direction. The Browns own the Bengals, which is weird how that works. But yeah, give me the Bengals as well. Detroit, Minnesota. So this has, I think, some playoff implications for Minnesota. It takes a lot for Minnesota to get into the playoffs, so not really. But who do you take in this game?
I'm taking the Lions. So Lions still have a shot at the number 2 seed technically, but they would need the Eagles and the Cowboys to both lose their games, which is unlikely, but I'm still going with the Lions.
Yeah, I'm going with the Lions too. Dan Campbell did say all the starters will be playing this weekend. Jets, Patriots doesn't really matter.
Yeah, this one was a toss-up for me. I could go either way. I think the Jets are going to try to prove something on their way out and be like, okay, like we still have a solid team. Aaron Rodgers coming back next year. Like we have a lot to look forward to. So I'm going with the Jets.
Yeah, I went with the Patriots here. It was a toss-up. I'm just going based off of my bracket. I really don't care who wins this game. Falcons Saints. This one has a lot of playoff implications because if the Bucs lose, whoever wins this game is in the playoffs.
Yeah, so for this one, I'm going with the Saints. Not a believer in either of these teams at all, but I guess the Saints proved something to me last week that they're trying to make a push towards the playoffs, and I think my bracket they still don't make it in, but I'm gonna go with the Saints on this one.
Yeah, I'm actually taking the Atlanta Falcons. I feel like I took them either last week or a couple weeks ago because I feel like Arthur Smith's job is on the line, and if he wins this game and doesn't make the playoffs, I feel like they're going to keep him around because it's an excuse. So give me Atlanta in this game. I feel like the Saints are riding high over that big win last week. Titans Jaguars. This one is probably the biggest because it implicates like a ton of games depending.
So I think the way it worked out is that if Jacksonville loses this game, I think the way my bracket works is that they still make the playoffs, but they're not the 4th seed.
Right.
Texans, obviously, they switch with Texans to the 7th seed, and so I'm going with the Jacksonville here. I think they need to win this game to have that home playoff game, and it means a lot to them.
Yeah. For me, I took the Tennessee Titans. I feel like Jacksonville is not I just feel like that they're not locked in. Trevor Lawrence hasn't played well this year. But I just feel like that the Titans, after Mike Vrabel's press conference saying that he gives a shit about this game, give me the Titans. Seattle Seahawks, Arizona Cardinals. Seattle, this is big implications for them to make the playoffs as well.
Yep. So it's dangerous when you play a team that has nothing to lose in the Cardinals, but I think
the division rival that wants to kick you out.
Exactly. So I almost picked the Cardinals, but I'm going with the Hawks here.
Yeah, I actually went with the Hawks too. I feel like the Cardinals are riding too high off of that win. I love taking teams after the opposing team after they win a big game. The Bears and the Packers. This one had huge implications, and we went the same direction. I'm really surprised.
We did, yeah, and it means a lot more for playoff reasons for the Packers, but I also think
winning they're in.
Yeah, I think this is also a prove-it game for Justin Fields, and he's a pissed off guy right now that all this talk about Caleb Williams. So I think he's going to have a career day, and I think it's going to be the Bears that come out on top.
Yeah, I actually chose the Bears as well. I just feel like it's the biggest game of Justin Fields' career for him in Chicago. So give me the Bears here. Kansas City Chargers, really fast, doesn't matter.
Yep, going with the Chiefs.
Yep, Chiefs. Raiders Broncos, doesn't matter.
One with the Broncos.
Yep, I am going with the Raiders here. I don't know if they can slip in. I don't think they can. Philadelphia and New York, it kind of has some implications if the Cowboys lose.
Yeah, I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles. Thought it was going to be an easy one last week, but so they could be another letdown spot, but I'm going with the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm going with the Eagles too. I feel like that they need a win to go into the playoffs a little bit hot. Rams and 49ers. This one doesn't have any implications either. Both teams are in the playoffs, so backups are going to play.
Yep, I'm going with the Rams. San Francisco's already locked up the 1 seed. Rams want to continue the hot streak into the playoffs.
Yeah, I got the Rams as well. I feel like they could beat San Francisco in the playoffs as well. They could be a dangerous team. Cowboys Commanders.
Going with the Cowboys.
Yep, I'm going with the Cowboys. I cannot believe they're going to win that division after being up and down all year long.
Yeah.
Miami Dolphins and Buffalo Bills, Sunday Night Football. Carrie Underwood is going to take us home to decide who wins the AFC East.
Cannot wait. I am riding with the Buffalo Bills. I've been on them all year. I think Josh Allen gets them in the playoffs with the number 2 seed.
I'm taking the Miami Dolphins. Miami is at home. They already lost to the Bills this year. Teams usually don't sweep their division unless they are a really, really good team. I just don't see Buffalo being a top team in the AFC after these past couple weeks. I think that people are overvaluing them, and I feel like Miami, they need to win this game or else that it's going to be a problem in the playoffs if they are not at home in that first playoff game. So pulling up our brackets. So for Jake, he has the Baltimore Ravens at the number 1 seed. Buffalo Bills at the number 2 seed. At the number 3 seed is the Kansas City Chiefs. The number 4 seed, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Cleveland Browns at the number 5 seed. The Miami Dolphins at the 6th seed. And Houston Texans at the number 7 seed. You feel really confident about that one?
I feel pretty good about it. I think the Miami Buffalo game is that's the only thing that changes my bracket entirely. So I feel good about it.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good round out. For the NFC, you have the San Francisco 49ers, obviously. 1 seed, Dallas 2, Detroit 3, Tampa Bay at number 4, Philly at 5, Los Angeles Rams at 6, and Seattle at 7. This one feels like probably the easiest one to build out.
Yeah, for sure. I think honestly, Seattle and Green Bay are probably the 2 interchangeable teams, and they're the most, I guess, even teams. But I think I have the best 7 teams in there. So
yeah, for sure. All right, for me, for the AFC, I have Baltimore 1, Miami at number 2, which me and Jake differ on. Number 3, Kansas City Chiefs. Number 4, Houston Texans, which would be an awesome season for CJ Stroud. Number 5, Cleveland. Number 6, Buffalo. Buffalo still gets in even if they lose in my playoff bracket scenario. And the Jacksonville Jaguars still get in after a loss, which is surprising. It takes a lot for them to get into the playoffs with a loss. So I feel like I'm really confident in this one because I feel like these are the 7 best teams in the AFC. We have the same teams, and I just feel like if anybody else gets in, like Pittsburgh, I'm going to be really disappointed in that first matchup. I really want to see Jacksonville and Miami play each other, and we get a Kansas City Buffalo Bills first round of the playoffs. It's always a classic with those 2. For the NFC, San Francisco, Dallas, Detroit, Tampa, Philly, Rams, Seattle. We went the same direction there as well. They're the 7 best teams in the NFC, and that will round it out for us on the I'm Him Sports Show, podcast, whatever you want to call it. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week where we give our playoff matchup predictions. I'm super excited for it, and I'm going to be bored the next 3 weeks while Baltimore sits on their couch. So, Jake, once again, thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you guys next week.
They know that I'm him, all of this time in the gym. Shots don't never touch the rim. Know that I'm him, got the defense overwhelmed. Do they know highlights of them? They know that I'm him, don't believe me, check the film. Ayy, any court and any field. Ayy, yeah, I'm Hall of Fame for real. They know that I'm him, all of this time in the gym. Shots don't never touch the rim. Know that I'm him, got the defense overwhelmed. Do they know highlights of them? They know that I'm him, don't believe me, check the film. Ayy, any court and any field. Ayy, yeah, I'm Hall of Fame for real. They know that I'm him. It's Timothy. Ay. Opponents might call me Himothy, aka Mr. Go switch up your energy. I join the team and increase all the chemistry. Wait, the ops playing baseball, I make them head home. I get the football, I'm in the red zone. I'm really him and I'm making it clear, bro. Thinking I'm not RIP cause you dead wrong. Wait, I got some options. I feel like a dual threat QB out of college. The